Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump is introducing a big tax cut bill in US, and that has serious implications throughout the whole stock market and also potentially the bonds market. Now, is it seen as something positive or negative? It's very controversial. Today, I will attempt to explain first what the bill is and what's the implication to the financial market. All of us must know, and please watch to the end. It's going to be a very important session. So today's session is going to talk about the big, beautiful bill that Donald Trump has labeled. And it's a new tax cut bill, and it's potentially a stock market celebration or a budget deficit disaster. So depending on how it turned out to be, it might mean different things to each other. So let me explain to you what this thing is. Let's go. As usual, these are my disclaimers. Not telling you buy or sell or giving you any financial advice. And I also want to make a very important announcement. Please hit subscribe for more updates, because tonight around 11 p.m. I'll do a live stream to make a very major announcement. You don't want to miss this announcement. So there are four big anchors in a big, beautiful bill. Number one is more tax cut on the individual level and also at a corporate level, massive tax cut. In the same bill, he's proposed to increase defense spending, okay, of $150 billion to defense, okay, and also another $70 to $175 billion for border security. He's super against a lot of illegal immigrants from coming in, and he's also going to do some export control as well, especially on some of the chips, and some governance changes as well, and so on. So all this potentially will have a lot of impact to the US budget deficit. It could increase or decrease. Most people will say it will decrease, but there's a small school of people that say that increase, and I think it's important for us to know. So to pass a bill, you need to go through a lot of steps, okay? Number one is the bill needs to pass through a committee. The committee then need to go to the House, okay? And then after that, need to go to the Senate, and the Senate then go into law. So right now, it's already passed the House by one vote, okay, one vote, which is very little. So it's a borderline. And now it's going to go to the Senate, okay, and the Senate aims to reach an agreement by 4th of July. So it's important for me to brief you all first. You do your own research and understanding, because this bill, once it's passed, will have stock market impact immediately. Now, the Republican senator, okay, are all part of Donald Trump's party, okay? They are not all 100% behind them. Now, the House in May have passed its own version, which is passed the bill by one vote margin. And Donald Trump has urged the Senate to move the multi-trillion-dollar bill quickly. But a good old party, which is a Republican senator, wants changes, and lawmakers disagree over the depths of Medicare cut, energy bill, blah, 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 blah. But basically, most of us will not be interested in the detail. But basically, what they are saying is this, okay? That right now, it is not so sure how this thing will turn out and when it go to the Senate for approval. Will it pass, right? Now, there are two possibilities. Number one is that, it may pass because there's just a reconciliation, and the good old party, which is Republican, holds 53 Senate seats. So they have the majority. Now, but within the Republican, not everyone agree to the vote to the bill. So there's something there. Now, but Donald Trump is, of course, pressurizing everybody. There are some popular terms within the bill that gives some tax extension, family credits, and so on. Now, it may not pass because multiple Republicans, Senator, 5 or 7 of them, has publicly raised objection. Okay, these are people. You need to understand there are two parties, right? Think of it like PAP, Workers' Party, okay? But this is Republican and the Democrats. The Democrats almost 100% will not support, but the Republicans will mostly support, but not 100%. So this already close to 48% gone already. Now, if this one all vote in favor, that's fine. But there are some Republicans that don't want to vote in favor. So this is where that it is the reason that it might not pass, because there's a big concern that your budget deficit is so big already. The country is so much in debt. You want to cut tax. As a result, the government will have less revenue coming in. Okay, less revenue coming in means the budget deficit goes up a lot. When the budget deficit goes up a lot more, we got to borrow more money. That's what everybody is so afraid of. When the budget deficit is so high, the debt is so high, you're going to cause the whole economy to crash, cause the US dollar to crash, cause everything to crash, right? So that's where all this concern is, plus a lot more. So these two are right now the question whether this thing will pass or not. Now, take note, I might be boring you right now, but later there is a big stock market sensitive analysis that I'm going to take regarding this one. So what's the opinion on the bill? Now let's look at the people who support it. So the biggest supporter and probably the architect of this guy, of this bill, is called Peter Navarro. Peter Navarro is a very interesting fella, 70 plus years old, full of energy. And let me also digress by telling everybody, if you are 60 plus, 70 plus, 80 plus, please do not think of yourself like you need to retire. You look at all these, old men, they are all full of energy, getting things done. Look at President Trump, 70 over years old. Look at Peter Navarro, full of energy. So he's a PhD in economics from Harvard University, and professor at certain places. That's not important, but he's now the senior trade advisor to Trump administration. He is the architect, or one of the key architects of all the tariffs. Okay, and I'm not saying, a lot of people think here he's some nutcase, and people think that, these economists don't know economics. Okay. And I think it's important to know that, he's a super loyalist of Donald Trump. He even went to jail on behalf of Donald Trump in that sense, or to protect Donald Trump. He went to jail for 4 months. And when he was inside, he don't see himself as a criminal or convict. He sees himself as a martyr. Okay. And when he came out, even Donald Trump admit that, he took a bullet for me in that sense, right? He took a shot for me to go in the jail. He went to jail on my behalf. So they both are super good brother. So Peter Navarro, which is let's call it Dr. Peter Navarro, his central argument is this big tax bill will not increase the deficit and could even lead to a surplus. Okay. Number one is that he thinks that the CBO, and I'll talk about CBO, is the government agency that developed all this analysis. He says that you use wrong modeling. And second is that these tariffs and the new tax policy will stimulate economic growth. As a result, as the whole economy makes more money, more tax revenue comes in. Okay. Now, this is going to be controversial, but surprisingly, this part is something that Donald Trump actually agreed. So first of all, what's CBO? It's called Congressional Budget Office. Okay, it is a non-partisan federal agency, which means it's not aligned to the Democrats or Republic, but they give budget projections, and basically, this CBO office assumes that everything be flat, no economic impact, no stimulation, just status quo. If you just drop tax rate, of course, the government collect less revenue. As a result, there'll be more severe budget deficit. Now, that is, to be frank, not a mainstream way of analysis, but they take a conservative analysis. So therefore, the CBO in 2017 has assumed that the tax cut that was introduced in 2017 will expire. Okay, and that will overstate the deficit, but that's probably not true, according to Peter Navarro. And there is also an assumption that US will have a tax growth rate of 1.7%. And he thinks that, with the new tax cut, there'll be massive stimulation of economic activity. So he thinks that it won't be 1.7, maybe some other bigger number. Every 1% increase in GDP will bring in massive amount of government revenues. So there is this hypothesis called the tariff-induced growth hypothesis. That means that when I introduce all this tariff, domestic growth will happen. So the argument is this, that the tariff affect the domestic industry. As a result, there'll be more US production and job creation. And as a result, you collect more tax revenue, right? Because there'll be higher employment and more taxable income. And as a result, less government spending. the revenues from the tariffs, okay, are estimated to be around 2.3 to 3.3 trillion dollars over about 10 years. And the CBO does not count this into this projection. I cannot say it's a mistake, but quite a big deliberate exclusion. So this revenues from the tax is going to increase the budget a lot. So there's a tax foundation estimate that a 10% universal tariff will raise $2.2 trillion over 2025 to 2034 windows, right? Logically so, right? You increase tariff, goods coming in, all tax 10%. Even Singapore have to pay. So that's quite a reasonable assumption, which the CBO does not assume. So Peter Navarro has also put forward that with a policy-driven economic growth, you could potentially have the budget deficit, okay, reduced to about $300 billion over 10 years, or a $2 trillion surplus over 10 years. And that's, I think, a fat hope. $2 trillion surplus is a fat hope. So reduction in budget deficit, I think that is at least not unthinkable. So what's the opposition to this big, beautiful bill? So the critics feels that, this Peter Navarro is smoking weed and, to assume that will happen. Most of these guys assume that there'll be a 2.4 to $3 trillion deficit increase. And that's quite big. This will cause the entire US dollar to go down further and potentially very bad to the bonds market and even the stock market. The concern is this, that the tariff will hurt consumer, and the stimulation of economic growth is purely speculative. And when you invoke tax on other people, people also hit back tax on you. So right now you already can see, right? EU threatened countermeasures and China threatened countermeasures and things like that. So there's a lot of you say, I say in the economic world. Now, as a trained economist myself, I must say that it's very difficult to tell what is the final impact. I would think at this point of time, it's difficult to tell is because we don't know what the final form and shape of the tariff will be, because Mr. Asiao Trump is changing his mind every few days, or every few weeks. So we don't know the final form and shape. Therefore, it's very difficult to make an analysis. Now, the Federal Reserve have a view that the increase in tariffs will increase prices and reduce economic activity, and we're kind of seeing that already. So the Federal Reserve is leaning towards a conservative side, where Peter Navarro and Donald Trump is leaning towards the aggressive side. I think it's important to know what the Federal Reserve is thinking, because they will use this thinking to decide on the interest rate movement. What will happen to the budget deficit? Well, in the optimistic case, the budget deficit will reduce, okay, by $2 trillion. $2 trillion, $2 trillion. And that's over a period of about 10 years. And in the conservative estimate by Peter Navarro, it will increase the deficit, it will reduce the deficit by $300 billion. And in the camp of the critics, they think that it will increase the budget deficit by $2.5 trillion. So who is right, who is wrong is very difficult to say. But this is a chart that kind of looking at it. Now, in the event that Donald Trump and Peter Navarro is right, the stock market is going to shoot to the moon. So it's going to be a US dollar and the bonds. But if they are wrong, then good luck to US. So who is right, who is wrong will really depend on a lot of factors interplay. But right now, I am in opinion that in the short term, there will be a worsening, but in the long term, potentially there could be a gain. But we also have to be mindful that Donald Trump is going to be around only for 4 years. Some of these effects will have to take 10 years to take. So we also don't know who is the next president. Is he going to be a pro-Trump or pro-Democrat, which is basically against Trump? So it's very hard to say at this juncture. But it's important for us to take note that right now, Donald Trump is going on an aggressive, massive coercion of many big companies to invest in US. So far, we have collected $1.4 trillion in pledges. that they're going to expand production in US. So Apple and Nvidia has both committed $500 billion to build production capability in US. IBM 150 billion, Amazon 120, ExxonMobil $100 billion, and many much more. These are some of the companies, okay, and about 50 companies so far. They have pledged some big numbers, okay, big numbers. So what's the conclusion? If Peter Navarro and Donald Trump is right, then we're going to see a huge uplift in the stock market and the bonds market. And if they are wrong, okay, and then we're going to have potentially some impact. So how much will this big, beautiful tax bill bring is at this point of time an unknown. We have to watch and see and analyze the impact on an ongoing basis to understand it. I would take the view, as I said, initially some worsening, over time some improvement. Taking the experience from 2017-18, usually after a big tax cut bill is passed, the impact of the stock market is very positive. Okay, usually. Now, what will happen to the bonds market? It really depends on the public opinion whether the bill will worsen or increase the budget situation. So we'll have more visibility to come. So remember to hit subscribe for this economic news and breakdown. And let me know your view whether Peter Navarro is right or wrong. And let's stay informed and stay analytical in this whole thing. Thank you for watching. I'll see you tonight in the live stream at around 11 p.m. Bye-bye.